You're standing in the pet food aisle again. $90 bag in your right hand, $30 bag in your left. Both of them have a gorgeous, glossy dog on the front. Both of them say premium. One says holistic. One has a picture of a wolf standing on a mountain in the snow, staring off into the distance like he's about to give a speech. And there you are, in your work clothes, doing that quiet math that every single pet parent does. The math where you would honestly hand over your entire paycheck if somebody could promise you it buys your best friend one more good year. So you stand there. 30 seconds. A minute. Somebody reaches past you for the cat litter. And finally, you just grab one, and you walk to the register, and you still don't know if you bought better nutrition or a nicer picture of a wolf. That feeling has a name, and it isn't stupidity. It's love with no information. But what if I told you that the answer was already in your hands the entire time? Not in the price, not in the reviews, not in that word premium. It was on the other side of the bag, in about 4 inches of tiny print that almost nobody turns over to read. Learn to read those 4 inches, and I promise you, that aisle stops being scary. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Ben Carter, your neighborhood veterinarian, and I want you to know something before we go one sentence further. This is one of the most common questions pet parents ask me, and it is almost never asked confidently. It's asked quietly, at the end of the appointment, with a hand on the door. Am I feeding him the right thing? Should I be spending more? My sister says I should be spending more. And underneath that question, there's usually a little bit of guilt, because somewhere along the way, somebody convinced you that if you loved your dog enough, you'd have bought the expensive one. Let's take that guilt and put it in the trash right now where it belongs. No guilt in my clinic, only education and love. Price is not a nutrition label. It never was. So here's where we're going today. First, I'll show you why the front of that bag is legally allowed to tell you almost nothing, and which specific words are pure decoration. Second, I'll walk you through the 4 things on the back that actually matter, in the exact order I read them myself. And third, I'll give you a single number that lets you compare a $90 bag and a $30 bag honestly, in about a minute, standing right there in the aisle. That's the whole video. And if you find this useful, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button before we start, because part 2 of this is where most people have their light bulb moment, and I'd hate for you to miss it. Grab a notebook if you have one. There are going to be numbers. Now, Chapter 1. Let's talk about the enemy, and I want to be very precise about who the enemy is, because it is not your dog food company, and it is definitely not your veterinarian. The enemy is the front of the bag. Think about buying a car. Imagine 2 cars sitting side by side on the lot. One is glossy black, freshly waxed, chrome trim, a badge on the trunk that says Luxury Edition in swooping letters. The other one is plain, beige, boring. And you know, deep down, that the paint job tells you absolutely nothing about whether that engine will still be running in 10 years. Nobody buys a car by the paint. You pop the hood. You look up the safety rating. You check what it costs to actually run. The front of a dog food bag is the paint job. The wolf is the chrome. And most of us have been buying dog food by the paint for our dog's entire life. Here's the part that genuinely surprises people. A lot of those impressive words on the front have no regulatory definition at all. Premium, super premium, holistic, ancestral, gourmet, biologically appropriate. In the United States, those are not defined standards that a company has to earn. They are adjectives. A food labeled premium is not required to contain one single ingredient of higher quality than the bag next to it. The word is doing marketing work, not nutrition work. A few terms do mean something, and it's worth knowing which. Natural has a narrow technical definition, but it's about how ingredients were processed. It is not a measure of quality, and it certainly isn't a measure of whether the diet is balanced. Human grade has a genuinely strict definition on paper, but it's used loosely enough in conversation that I'd never let it drive my decision. And grain-free is not a nutritional achievement. It's a recipe choice. I'll be honest with you here, because honesty is the whole point of this channel. Many vets, myself included, approach grain-free diets with more caution than we did 10 years ago, after regulators began looking into reports involving certain diets and a heart condition in dogs. That investigation has not established that these diets cause the condition, and I am not going to stand here and tell you your food is dangerous. What I will say is this: grain-free is not automatically better. It usually costs more, and if your dog is on one, that's a great 5-minute conversation to have with your own vet at the next visit. Not a reason to panic tonight. So if you've been buying by the front of the bag and feeling like you never got what you paid for, you weren't feeding the wrong dog. You were reading the wrong side of the bag, which raises the obvious question. If the front is advertising, what on earth is on the back? That's Chapter 2, and this is the reveal. I want you to actually do this with me. If your dog's food is in the house, pause this video right now. Go get the bag, the actual bag, not the plastic bin, and I'll explain why in a minute, and turn it around. Go on. I'll wait. Got it? Somewhere on the back or the side panel, usually in the smallest print on the entire package, often tucked underneath the feeding chart, there is a single sentence or two that mentions something called AAFCO. If you're watching from Europe, look for the equivalent guidance from FEDIAF. That tiny paragraph is called the Nutritional Adequacy Statement, and in my opinion, it is the single most important thing printed on the entire package. It is the safety rating on the car. Here's what it's telling you. It says whether that food is complete and balanced, meaning it's designed to be the whole diet, not a topper, not a snack, and which life stage it's balanced for. Growth, adult maintenance, all life stages. And it tells you how the company proved it. There are 2 ways. One version says the food was formulated to meet the established nutrient profiles. The other version says animal feeding tests were used to substantiate that the food provides complete and balanced nutrition. Both are legitimate, but feeding tests mean actual dogs actually ate it under a protocol and were monitored. And in my experience, that's the stronger of the 2. And here's the one I want you to watch for like a hawk. If that paragraph says the product is intended for intermittent or supplemental feeding only, that food is not designed to be your dog's whole diet. It's a topper. If it's been the main meal in your house, that's worth a call to your vet this week. Not because anything terrible has happened, but because that's exactly the kind of quiet gap I'd rather catch early. I see this story in my exam room constantly. Picture a couple who come in with a 5-year-old Labradoodle, dull coat, a little gassy, not sick, just not thriving. And they are exhausted because they have been buying the $95 bag for 2 years. They apologize to me. They actually apologize like they've failed him. So we flip the bag over together, right there on the exam table. The food is fine, genuinely fine. But the daily portion they've been feeding is nearly double what he needs. And there are 4 different treats in the mix, and nobody ever showed them where to look. In stories like that one, the fix usually isn't a fancier bag. It's a scale, a smaller scoop, and a food that costs about half as much from a company that answers the phone. And the part that stays with me is always the same. The relief on their faces when they realize they weren't bad pet parents. They were just never handed the map. So let me hand you the map. Step 1. Today, standing in the aisle. 4 flips of the bag, about 60 seconds. I call it the back of the bag method, and here's the first half. Flip 1, the safety rating. Find that nutritional adequacy statement and read the life stage. Adult maintenance food is not appropriate as a growth diet for a puppy, and this matters enormously for large breed puppies who need controlled calcium while their skeletons are still building. If you have a puppy who is going to be a big dog, look specifically for wording about growth including large-sized dogs. And if that paragraph isn't on the bag at all, put it down. That's not a snob move. That's the same as buying a car with no crash test rating. Flip 2, the engine bay. The ingredient list. Ingredients are listed by weight, and here is the trick almost nobody knows. That weight includes water. So deboned chicken, which is roughly 70% water before cooking, gets to sit proudly at the top of the list. But once it's cooked down into kibble, far less of it remains than that first place spot suggests. Meanwhile, chicken meal sounds worse to our ears, but it's meat with the water already removed, so it's actually a concentrated protein source. Two bags can be nearly identical and look completely different in that list. While you're there, watch for what I call splitting. If you see peas, then pea protein, then pea fiber, then pea starch listed as 4 separate items, ask yourself what the list would look like if you added them all together. Sometimes an ingredient is much higher up the list than it appears. And please, let me defend one poor ingredient that's been slandered for a decade: byproducts. In the wild, the organ meat is the first thing eaten, and it's some of the most nutrient-dense food on Earth. Liver is not garbage. A well-made food using named organ meats can be excellent. Read the list. Don't read the internet's mood about the list. Flip 3, the badge on the trunk. This one is my favorite because it's a genuine rulebook hiding in plain sight. And once you know it, you can never unsee it. The product name itself is regulated by percentages. Roughly speaking, if the name is simply chicken dog food, chicken has to make up at least 95% of the ingredients, not counting added water. If the name includes a word like dinner, entree, platter, formula, or recipe, chicken dinner for dogs, that drops to at least 25%. If the name uses the word with, as in made with real chicken, that ingredient only has to be 3%. And if it says chicken flavor, there only needs to be enough for a dog to detect it. Read that again in your head. Made with real chicken can legally mean 3%. That single sentence has changed more shopping habits than anything else I teach. Now, a real warning before we go on, because this is where people get overconfident. None of these 3 flips tell you whether a food suits your individual dog. A dog with kidney disease, pancreatitis, bladder stones, or a diagnosed food allergy needs a diet chosen by their veterinarian, and a therapeutic diet is a treatment, not a brand preference. If your dog is on a prescription diet, do not switch based on a YouTube video, mine included. Bring the questions to your vet instead. Ready for the flip that actually saves you money? That's next. Flip 4, fuel economy. Somewhere on that bag there is a calorie content statement. It'll show kilocalories per kilogram and usually per cup as well. This is the number that turns price into truth. Because here's the thing, bag price is meaningless. A dense, calorie-rich food means you feed fewer cups, so the expensive bag lasts longer. The honest question is never, what does the bag cost? It's, what does a day cost? Do it like this. Take the price of the bag and divide it by how many days that bag actually lasted your dog. That's it. That's the number. If you want to do it in the aisle before you buy, look at the calories per cup. Look at the feeding guide for your dog's weight, and work out roughly how many cups a day you'd be pouring. $90 might come out to about $2.20 a day. $40 might come out to 85 cents. Same dog, same month. $60 a month different. That's over $700 a year. And I would much rather you put that money toward pet insurance or a dental cleaning, both of which will do more for your dog's life than a nicer picture of a wolf. And if the good option still doesn't fit your budget this month, here's your budget alternative. And I mean this sincerely. A moderately priced food from a large, established manufacturer that employs qualified nutritionists and runs feeding trials is a perfectly excellent choice. Some of the healthiest dogs I've ever examined have eaten unglamorous food their whole lives. Cheap does not mean bad. Unproven means bad. But this only fixes the outside. You've solved one shopping trip. Now we have to fix the inside so you never have to feel lost in that aisle again. Step 2. The part that lasts forever. Or rather, the part that keeps working long-term because I don't make promises I can't keep. The first piece is 4 questions, and this is the closest thing I have to a superpower. Every bag has a phone number or a website on it. That's not decoration, that's a door. Call it or email it and ask these 4 things. 1. Do you employ a full-time qualified nutritionist? And what are their credentials? You're listening for a board-certified veterinary nutritionist or someone with a doctorate in animal nutrition. 2. Who formulates your recipes? And are they formulated by that person or bought as an off-the-shelf premix? 3. Do you own the plant where this food is made, or is it manufactured by someone else? 4. What is the full nutrient analysis for this specific product? Not the minimums on the bag, the actual numbers. Now, here's the part that matters more than the answers. A good company will answer these in a day, cheerfully, with names attached. If a company can't tell you who formulates your dog's food, you have learned something enormous for the price of one email. That's popping the hood. Second piece. Feed the dog in front of you, not the chart on the bag. Feeding guides are starting points calculated for an average dog, and your dog is not average. A neutered couch enthusiast and an intact farm dog of the same weight can differ substantially in what they need. So learn body condition scoring. Run your flat palm along your dog's side. You should feel the ribs easily, like the back of your knuckles, with a thin layer over them. Not see them, not have to dig for them. Look down from above. There should be a visible waist behind the ribs. Look from the side. The belly should tuck up, not run straight back like a table. If you're not finding those things, that's a portion conversation with your vet, not a food brand conversation. And measure with a kitchen scale in grams if you can. A scoop packed loosely and a scoop packed tightly can differ by a shocking amount over a month. Third piece, and it's the one everyone forgets. Treats count. Treats, chews, the crust of the toast, the bit of cheese the pill went in. All of it should stay at or under about 10% of your dog's daily calories. You can do everything right with the bag and undo it entirely with a bag of biscuits on the counter. Which brings me to the safety part of this chapter, and please listen closely. When you're using human food as treats, check your peanut butter for xylitol, sometimes labeled as birch sugar, because it is genuinely toxic to dogs, and it is in more products than you'd think. Keep onions and garlic away from your dog entirely, including cooked into broths and gravies, because they're toxic too. Grapes and raisins, chocolate, same rule, and that includes the raisins in the leftover bun. Skip cooked bones, which splinter. And if you're ever considering cooking for your dog at home, do it with a veterinary nutritionist formulating the recipe. Homemade diets built from internet recipes are one of the most common sources of nutritional gaps I see, particularly calcium. Fourth piece. When you do switch foods, switch slowly. Days 1 to 3, 25% new food mixed with 75% old. Days 4 to 6, half and half. Days 7 to 9, 75% new. Day 10, you're across. Introduce one new food at a time, or you'll be cleaning the hallway carpet at 3 in the morning and you won't even know which food to blame. And finally, storage. Remember I told you to keep the actual bag? Here's why. Keep the food inside its original bag and put the whole bag into the bin. The bag has a fat barrier that keeps the food from going rancid, and it carries the lot number and the best buy date, which are the two pieces of information anyone would need if there were ever a recall. Roll it down, clip it, keep it somewhere cool and dry, and wash your dog's bowl every single day. Now, before we recap, I have to give you the most important section of this video, and it's the one I never skip. Everything I've taught you today is about choosing a maintenance diet for a healthy dog. It is not a substitute for a diagnosis. Please call your veterinarian soon, not eventually, if your dog is losing weight without you changing anything, if they're vomiting or having diarrhea for more than a day or two, if there's blood in the stool, if they've stopped eating, if their belly looks bloated or tight, if they seem weak or unusually tired, or if there's a persistent itch, ear infection, or skin problem you've been trying to solve with food changes. That last one matters because true food allergies exist, but are far less common than the internet suggests, and switching bags over and over can delay a diagnosis that would have brought your dog relief months earlier. And if your dog is retching without producing anything, pacing, and their abdomen looks distended, that is an emergency. Go now, tonight. Don't wait until morning. Home knowledge ends where diagnosis begins, and knowing that line is what makes you a great pet parent, not a lesser one. All right, your battle plan. This is the back of the bag method, and it's 4 steps. Step 1. Flip the bag and find the nutritional adequacy statement. Complete and balanced, the correct life stage, ideally substantiated by feeding tests. Step 2. Read the ingredient list like an engine bay. Remember that fresh meat carries water, that meals are concentrated, that ingredients can be split, and that organ meat is a good thing. Step 3. Read the name like a badge. 95%, 25% for dinner and formula and recipe, 3% for width, and barely a trace for flavor. Step 4. Find the calorie statement and calculate what 1 day costs, because a day is the only unit of price that means anything. And then, when you're home, call the number on the bag and ask the 4 questions. Weigh the food. Watch the waistline, not the chart. Keep treats to 10%. Now, you don't have to do all of this tomorrow. Please don't try. Pick just one thing from this video. If you only do one, make it this. Tonight, walk into your kitchen, turn your dog's food bag around, and find that little paragraph. 60 seconds. That's the whole assignment. Here's what I want you to hear before you go. That moment in the aisle, 2 bags, 1 in each hand, feeling helpless, that moment happens because you love your best friend and you were handed advertising instead of information. The fact that you sat through a whole video about tiny print on the back of a bag tells me everything about the kind of pet parent you are. And trust me, they know it. They don't know what the bag cost. They know you're the one who fills the bowl. You are your dog's only advocate in that aisle, and starting tonight, you're an informed one. So the next time you're standing there, you're not going to stand there for a minute. You're going to turn the bag over, read 4 inches of small print, and walk out sure. So tell me down in the comments, what's your dog's name? And what is the very first word on the ingredient list of the food sitting in your kitchen right now? I'm genuinely curious what you find, and I read as many comments as I possibly can. If this helped, hit that like button and subscribe. It honestly helps this channel protect more dogs. And share this with a friend who's been overpaying and feeling guilty about it anyway. You might just change their dog's life and their grocery budget. Give your dog a gentle scratch behind the ears for Dr. Ben. Stay safe, trust your instincts, and I'll see you in the next video.